Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to Docentes DigitalesTV, the most complete spoken English course on all of YouTube. Here, you will learn to speak English effortlessly, simply by listening to stories like this one and answering the questions that follow. No need to memorize words or use a dictionary. At the end of each video, I'll walk you through the vocabulary that might be new to you. Now, let's begin our story. My name is Chris, and I'm a musician. I've been playing music since I was a kid, starting with a cheap guitar my uncle gave me. I never dreamed it would become my life's work, my passion, and eventually, my career, but I learned the hard way that even in a world built on creativity and passion, there are people who are only looking to take advantage of you. This is the story of how I got scammed by the one person I thought was on my side, my manager. It all began when I started gaining a bit of local fame. I had a few songs on SoundCloud, and people were starting to show up to my gigs. I'd play in coffee shops, small bars, and open mics around the city. Slowly, I was getting noticed. One night, after a pretty successful set at a downtown lounge, a man approached me. He was tall, well-dressed, and had this confidence that filled the room. He introduced himself as Marcus. "I'm a music manager," he said, "and I think you have real talent." I was flattered, of course. No one had ever said that to me before, at least not in such a direct, professional way. Marcus said he had connections. He could get me bigger gigs, studio time, maybe even a label deal if things went well. I was skeptical at first, but he seemed to know everyone. People greeted him by name, he bought drinks for the bar staff, and even the lounge owner treated him like royalty. I thought, if I want to make it, I need someone like him. We started working together. At first, it was amazing. He got me opening spots for bigger acts. He introduced me to producers, and he helped polish my image. He even got me a few live interviews on local radio. I was living a dream. He said he would only take 15% of whatever I made, which seemed fair considering all he was doing. But then, little by little, things started to shift. He began insisting that all my payments go through him. "I'll handle the business," he'd say. "You focus on the music." I trusted him, and honestly, I was happy to not deal with the financial side of things. At first, it seemed efficient. Gigs were booked, I was performing more than ever, and I didn't worry about invoices or payments. Marcus told me what I was earning, sent me my cut, and kept the rest. I didn't question it. One day, I played a wedding gig for a pretty wealthy couple. They had contacted Marcus directly. I gave the performance everything I had. It was one of my best shows. The next day, Marcus told me they had paid $500, sent me $250. But something felt off. I had spoken to the bride briefly before the event, and she had mentioned how they were paying top dollar because they wanted everything perfect. So I decided to ask the venue manager how much the couple paid for entertainment. The answer hit me like a punch to the gut. They had paid $2,000. Marcus had lied. Not just about the wedding, but likely about everything. I suddenly questioned every gig, every client payment, every dollar he'd ever sent me. I confronted him immediately. He denied it at first. "No way," he said. "You must have heard wrong." But the venue manager had shown me the invoice. The truth was undeniable. After a heated argument, Marcus admitted it. He told me, "That's how the industry works, Chris. I take more because I do more. You wouldn't be anywhere without me." I was stunned. I had trusted him like family. This man had shaped my career, or so I thought. Now I realized he had just used me as a tool to make easy money. I felt sick, not just because of the money, but because of the betrayal. Every handshake, every plan, every late-night call about tour ideas or branding, was it all fake? I fired him that day. I didn't have a backup plan, no manager, no lawyer, no protection. But I knew I had to get out. What followed were months of chaos. I lost gigs because they had been booked under Marcus's name. Some venues didn't even have my contact information. I had to rebuild from scratch, make new connections, explain the situation, and even apologize for some bookings that Marcus had mishandled. It was exhausting. But during that time, I learned more about the music business than I ever had before. I studied contracts, I handled my own bookings, and I even learned basic accounting. I began to see the value of understanding your own career, not just the art, but the business too. It was hard, but it was empowering. One night, I got a call from a friend who ran a podcast. He wanted to interview me about my music and my journey. I agreed. I spoke honestly about the scam, about how Marcus had betrayed me, and how I was rebuilding. The episode went viral. Messages flooded in from other musicians who had similar stories. Suddenly, I wasn't just a musician. I was a cautionary tale, a voice of warning. That exposure opened new doors. A new manager, this time a woman named Lisa, reached out. She had listened to the podcast and said, "You deserve someone who respects your work." She had a clean reputation, had managed several successful indie artists, and encouraged transparency in everything. We talked for weeks before signing anything. She showed me her contracts, broke down the percentages, and made sure I had legal counsel before committing. It felt right. And it was. With Lisa's help, I booked my first national tour. This time, I saw every invoice. I knew what each gig paid, where every dollar went, and how every part of the operation worked. I was no longer in the dark. I was a musician and a professional. It took years to fully recover from what Marcus did, not just financially, but emotionally too. The worst part wasn't the money. It was the sense that I had been played by someone I considered a friend. But in a way, that experience shaped who I am today. I became stronger, smarter, and more determined. If you're listening to this story and you're chasing a dream, please remember, trust is earned, not given. Learn the business side of your passion. Don't hand over your life's work to someone just because they sound convincing. Ask questions, read the fine print, and never let anyone make you feel like you owe them everything. Because your talent, your voice, your art is yours. And that's powerful. That's enough. Now that we've finished the story, if you've made it this far, congratulations. Now, focus, because we have a little quiz to reinforce what you've learned. You'll have 5 seconds to answer each question in English, out loud. Let's begin. Who was the first person to approach Chris about managing his career? Marcus. What percentage of Chris's earnings did Marcus claim he would take? $15%. $500. How much did the couple actually pay for the wedding gig? $2,000. What did Marcus say when he was confronted about the money? That's how the industry works. I take more because I do more. What did Chris do immediately after discovering the scam? He fired Marcus. What problems did Chris face after firing Marcus? He lost gigs and had to rebuild his network. What skill did Chris learn during his time without a manager? Business, contracts, and basic accounting. What helped Chris rebuild his career after the scam? A podcast interview that went viral. Who became Chris's new manager? Lisa. And now let's review the vocabulary that might be new or less common. Gig, a live performance by a musician or band. Example, I booked a gig at the local bar. Invoice, a document showing the amount owed for services. Example, the venue sent me an invoice for the sound equipment. Cut, a share of money earned. Example, he got his cut of the payment. Scam, a dishonest scheme or fraud. Example, they ran a scam to steal people's money. Betrayal, the act of being disloyal or dishonest. Example, his betrayal hurt more than losing the money. Exposure, the state of being made known publicly. Example, the interview gave me great exposure. Transparency, being open and honest, especially in business. Example, I appreciate her transparency in our contract. Fine print, the detailed terms and conditions in a contract. Example, always read the fine print before signing. Cautionary tale, a story that serves as a warning. Example, his story is a cautionary tale for new artists. Indie, short for independent, usually referring to music not under major labels. Example, she's an indie musician with total creative control. Thank you so much for staying until the end of this video. Don't forget to subscribe to Docentes DigitalesTV. Give this video a like and share it with someone who's chasing a dream, so they can learn English and life lessons at the same time. See you in the next one.